are these people?
Because I can't just do one Assange story. There's so much Assange news. Like, seriously? Oh, my God. Now, so first of all, we covered that the 2 days in front of the Royal Courts of London, Royal Courts of Justice in London. Reef manned the board for almost the entire time for 2 days, 19 hours worth of live stream coverage. We supplemented that with clips of Assange-related stuff from all the different INN shows. And it was really an honor to be involved and included in Juan Passarelli's footage. There were some great speeches, and we're hoping that he's freed, and we're waiting on a decision which could come any day. What I wanted to bring up, and this was from Joe Lauria, and Kathy over at Consortium News sent me a message tonight that they stitched together 2 days worth of conversation that they had with all the reporters that were there, from Matt Kennard to Richard Medhurst to Chris Hedges, Joe Lauria, and several others. And they did like this big roundtable sit down over 2 days, and they stitched that all into a video. So check that out over at Consortium News. This is a Consortium News article that Joe wrote up. And a lot of this you've probably seen already from other people's coverage. However, he did make some point that I wanted to bring up here. And he said that accredited journalists anywhere in the world were given remote access to cover both Assange's September 2020 extradition hearing and the 2021 U.S. appeal hearing at the High Court. This is how Consortium covered those two appearances. But this time, if you weren't in England or Wales, or in other words, within the High Court's jurisdiction, you couldn't cover the hearing. That shut out reporters in Australia and the U.S. who have a special interest in the case. Fortunately, Consortium had long planned to be in London for the hearing and were there in person. He said, my hotel was just 3 blocks from the Royal Courts of Justice, a 5-minute walk away where the Strand turns into Fleet Street. As I approached, Jeremy Corbyn was addressing the crowd. Guess what? We were already live at that point as he approached during Corbyn's speech. I believe I actually went to bed during that speech.
Yep.
And Reef took over for me. It was 3:45 in the morning here that night. Nearly 1,000 Assange supporters flooded the street, causing a double wall of yellow-vested cops to open a path into and out of the court. It was like a corridor. Now, we also covered, and I know that you had Halo on, and Matt O'Brien was on with Misty on TNT Radio last week, talking about how there's no smaller courtroom in the Royal Courts of Justice, and that's where they packed everyone into. Stefania Marizzi even reported that she couldn't type, and she's got this thing she can't write. She got a disability, and they didn't give her a table to put her laptop on, and there weren't enough seats.
I don't know if that was her. I don't know if that was her or someone else, but
was it someone else? It was somebody.
That problem. Yeah.
All right.
So
Joe says that he was in the last batch, admitted with no apparent seats left in a wood panel courtroom with just 7 rows of 14 seats each. At the end of the row where I stood sat Claire Daly. God bless her. Okay. And she tried to squeeze into her left to make room for me, but it wasn't even possible. And you know that Claire Daly is like skinny as a rail. Right?
Yeah.
And tiny. I was then pointed to a seat at the end of a long wooden table directly below the barristers' lecterns, immediately in front of the clerks, where Justice Jeremy Johnson and Dame Victoria Sharp perched above, looking down their noses at us a mere 5 meters away. It was very tight, and he got pushed right to the front. So we were so near to the barristers behind us that on the second day, a flustered Claire Dobbin, KC, for the prosecution, fumbled her papers after being asked a question from the bench, and in the process knocked over a glass of water that dribbled down the back of Chris Hedges, who sat next to me. Like, that's crazy. This whole thing was crazy. Like, he tells a story about how he's wearing a shirt inside out, and they actually made him. It said, "I'm with WikiLeaks." He's like, I turned it inside out and went into the courthouse Wednesday morning wearing it under a green jacket. However, in the afternoon, for some reason, I took off the green jacket. And the security guard wanted to know what was on my shirt inside out. I lifted it up and he saw the writing, and that's why I turned it inside out. That's protest material. They almost tried to stop him, so he said, I ripped the shirt off and threw it on the table, and for a few seconds, I was totally naked from the waist up in the middle of the Great Hall of the Royal Courts of Justice in the Strand in London. I love you, Joe Lauria. I grabbed my green jacket, buttoned it up to my neck. So good. So what he's saying here, also, Fleet Street, this is what's important. The Royal Courts of Justice Strand on the eastern end of the Strand, a major thoroughfare that begins at Trafalgar Square and runs into the City of London. Now, it gives you like a whole lesson here about Fleet Street, which is basically like the reporters' hub, the journalists' hub that used to be downtown central London. All right, 1702. Yeah. This goes way, way back. The repeal of a duty on paper in 1861 led to an explosion of national titles, and nearly all of them published on Fleet Street. However, by 1900, there were dozens of publications located there. It became synonymous with journalism, and then came Rupert Murdoch. In 86, he moved the Times and the Sun out of the street to Wapping to break the print union. It led to violent clashes, but Murdoch succeeded in destroying Fleet Street as the nucleus of the press. Right? Basically, this is where everyone used to kind of come together, and they'd share stories and share ideas, and it was a bit of a boys' club for sure, but a lot more stuff was being covered, in his mind, better. Newspaper culture, nurtured in the pubs, in the neighboring newsrooms, and in the courthouse down the street, was broken up. The press was on its way to decline, if not ruin, because it was one of society's estates. They wanted to destroy the Fourth Estate.
Yeah.
New York City had its own printers' row, and what he's effectively saying is, we need to bring like a Fleet Street type of environment back. Where is it? While there have been sporadic intellectual acknowledgments of the threat to press freedom that the prosecution opposes, such as occasional editorials in the joint letter sent to the Biden admin or DOJ asking to drop the case, there's no passion among elected officials to defend Assange. There's nothing resembling the newspaper campaigns of the days when reporters from competing newspapers bumped into each other on Fleet Street. He said, "This is what we've attempted to do with our, limited resources at Consortium News, an old-fashioned, factually reported newspaper campaign to right a great injustice." And he's saying that there needs to be a place where all independent media, a space, a square, comes together and kind of shares ideas and stories and kicks stuff back and forth, debunks each other, and makes their stories better, stickier, and more truthful. Not
stickier.
Yes, stickier.
Ew.
By the way, Consortium News and Joe Lauria, of course, Indie Media Award on Reade. That's to the best. So, again, please, if you can support, donate. Those are the links to do so down there in the corner. Those are the people who have already helped out and supported. Thank you to Kate and to Anna Mayers, whose names were already up there, I believe. If not, they will definitely be. Anna definitely was. Pretty sure Kate was too, but we'll get her up there. Oh, God. No, Himbo. We're not doing a show called Sticky Stories. Ew. Gross.
Yeah.
Okay.